that we're going to have. You may have to accept that, but welcome everybody. So glad that you are here for our Green Gap chat. And you may be wondering, what is the Green Gap? We will get to that. But there is something green that I guarantee every single one of you has had to think about today, probably more times than you even realize, right? How many times today alone in the last 24 hours do you think, drop this in the chat, how many times in this last 24 hours do you think that you've thought about money? I know it's, you weren't prompted, in that way, but if you had to put a number out there, how many times a day do you think that you think about money? 5 to 10, 15 to 20, 25 to 30, 50, 100, 7, right? It would be interesting in the next 24 hours to be aware of how often you think about money. Now, sometimes we're thinking about it directly, right? Anybody open up the mail today and you had a bill that was right there? You love that mail, right? And you're like, oh, right. Or you got that email that had something that needed to be paid. So then you thought about money. Or maybe you went to the store today. So you were thinking about what money you were handing over for the things that you were getting, or maybe even easier, right? How Amazon makes it so dangerous to spend money without even thinking about it. You just clicked a couple buttons today and money went out of your account and into somebody else's, right? But here's what's so interesting is that those are the times when we think about money because it's something that we're directly handling if it's cash. But I don't know about you guys, it's been a while since I've really handled a lot of cash. However, we are really thinking about money way more often than just those times that we're making a transaction. Because every time, that I pick up my highlighter, my highlighter died the other day, and so I had to buy a new pack of highlighters. So I am thinking about, the fact that I now have this and I've exchanged it. So mentally, am I going back to the money that this costs? No, but there was money involved with this thing being in my hand, whether I realize it or not, right? And so what we're talking about tonight is how money affects us and what place it needs to have in our life and how we can have a simple system to really make sure it has a proper place in our life and is in a place that we want it to be. How many people, if you're willing to share, you can tell us how many people your finances are exactly where you want them to be right now. And you would love for them to stay there for the rest of your life. Yeah, no, not me. I actually had somebody tell me today, she's like, I'm really good with my finances. I was like, wow, what's your secret? I haven't met anybody yet who has told me that they want to stay exactly where they are right now with where their finances are. And that doesn't mean you're necessarily in a bad place, but what about what if I could bring in more and spend less so that I could invest more or give more or have a legacy and impact things like that, right? So tonight we're going to talk a little bit about that because I feel like money is like air and water, right? We literally need it every day to live. We literally do, whether we're thinking about it or not. And so here's what's so interesting. I have this Post-it note on my desk and I look at this every day and it literally relates to almost every area of my life. But here's what it says. You are creating your results every moment, whether you know it or not. True about money? Yeah, right? Whether you're consciously thinking about where your money is coming and going or not, you are creating your financial results. And what I love though, is that where you are right now is just where you are. It's not where you have to stay. It doesn't define you. And there are things that you can do to move yourself beyond where it is right now. So I'm going to share my screen with you guys. So you're seeing more than just me. And to make this, I was trying to look up the Money, Money, Money song before you all got on, but then we got to talking, so it didn't end up playing. Okay, hold on. Click and present. If I can make this so you can see these. Oh, here we go. Maybe I have to do this. There we go. Okay. Okay. So let's let this guy. Okay, I'm seeing a white screen. Let's see if we can make this go to something that's not white. Gotta love it when everything is all set to go and then it doesn't want to play, right? All right, can you see it on this page when I've got it here? Mm-hmm. Okay. So okay, there we go. Okay. So I want to open up with some conversation. So if you're on live, I would love for you to unmute. Doesn't matter if there's things going on around you, but we're going to talk about some of these questions here. And if you're listening to the replay, then you can just kind of answer these questions by yourself or with somebody who's around you. We've kind of talked about how often do we think about it. Let's just throw out some words, right? Just kind of like, I call this popcorn. You just throw out a word here and there, right? How does money typically make you feel? How does money typically make you feel? Throw out a word. And you might think of something. Go ahead.
Stressed.
Did you say stressed?
Yes.
Good.
Yeah.
Sometimes it can make you feel happy.
Yeah. There are definitely times when it does.
Yeah.
Because it allows you to do things and have choices, right? Anyone ever feel overwhelmed when you kind of are looking at all the big snowball of all the different things?
True.
Anybody feel like this? Like, I just don't even want to know. Was having a conversation last week with some women and they were like, yeah, I don't even want to open up my Amazon account and look and see how much I'm giving them. Or I don't open up my credit card statement. I just pay it because I don't even want to see where it's going. So sometimes we're just like in that, like, I don't even want to know, plug my ears, pretend like it's not there and just keep going on with life, right? So it can bring up a whole lot of different emotions. In fact, it is one of the, like when you said stress, Nikki, it is one of the top stressors in our current modern day, right? And this also then has a lot of factors when it comes to our field of work, when it comes to marriages and families, when it comes to our ability to have fun, when it comes to, you know, just even our fitness, right? Because if we're emotionally stressed about something, that starts having an effect on our body. So we talk about these 7 different F's, and it's so interesting how one of them can have an impact on all these other areas of our life. So here's where you get to dream, okay? This is really important. If I was the magic money fairy and I had my magic wand that I could bippity boppity boo right now, and I could change something about your finances right now, what would you most like to see change? You get one wish, so you better make sure you make it good. What would it be?
That I didn't have to pay taxes on it.
There you go. It's tax season right now. My husband just took all our paperwork today. So yes, I hear you on that. Love it. Somebody else, what would you most like to change about your finances?
That I made enough money that I didn't have to worry about anything.
Yeah, and you brought another word, a feeling, worry, right? It's definitely something that keeps us up at night.
That I could choose my lifestyle according to the income that I have coming in, not that my income dictates my lifestyle.
Good one, Ann.
Yeah, you being in control of those choices. I love that versus feeling like circumstances are in control of you. Love it. I would love to be at the point where I didn't have to check my bank account to make sure there was enough to cover something that I was sending or to be able to give in the way that I want to give. I want to just be able to, like, if somebody has a need, I'm like, yep, what do they need? Send it off, right? And not even have to think and do the math to figure out what the balance is, right? What's left over. So when you think about those things, what difference would that make if that was how you felt about money versus how you currently feel about money? I know, I'm getting into your imagination a little bit here. What difference would that make?
I think you'd be more creative.
Why do you think that? That's an interesting one.
Because like you said, you could give freely, you could, you know, travel at your leisure. You could, you know, when something in your community or like there's a tragedy or something, you could, you know, very easily make a large donation or help with a, you know, maybe a school situation or something like that.
Yeah, love that.
Kelly said, improve just about everything, including relationships.
You're so right, Kelly. Thanks for checking that, Ann, because you can see that. Yeah, because it is such a stressor in relationships. In fact, it's one of the number one things that couples fight over is money. right? We all come in with our own mindsets about it, with our own past baggage about it, with our own expectations about it, with our own goals, you know, around it. If we even are thinking further than just where we are today, for sure.
I think it also changes your mindset from doing things out of a have to doing out of a want to.
Yeah. That's exactly what I was thinking, Anne, was like there's not this pressure to, I have to do this to provide or to pay the bills, but it's, I'm doing this because this is truly my passion. This is truly my calling. This is what imagine if you could do what you were passionate about and felt like you were called to do all day long, even if you didn't get paid, because you didn't have to worry about things on that end, right? Like how differently would we show up when we go to work, right? Or do whatever it is that we do in our work, right? So good. And this is what's so important, is that most people, myself included, it's very easy to just keep going from day to day and keep saying that we want to see changes, but not really doing anything, right? Or maybe having a little bits where you get really good about it for a while, and then what happens? We kind of fall off the bandwagon again, right? And I don't know about you guys, but for me, when left to myself, I don't usually do a very good job for very long. You know, again, those habits may stick, those great intentions may make it past January into February, maybe into March, but I'm very usually, you know, kind of letting those things fall by the wayside and then just going right back into the same habits that I've had, which are going to keep me right in the same place that I've always been. So what I want to share with you guys is, what is the green gap, and what is that all about, and how can this tool help you when it comes to your finances? So as you watch this, I want you to think about the place that you were talking from, right? What would you most like to change, and what difference that would make for you?
I know that you are here because you want total financial freedom. You want to pay down debt. You want to invest for your future. And more importantly, for me, I think this is important, you want to have fun along the way. You want to enjoy life along the way. And that's why the Little Green Gap program is for you. Yeah, most people are living, and I've been there, you've been there, living life by default financially. Meaning money comes in, money goes out, we're not paying attention, we hope it all works out. But the fact that you're watching this video means that you know it's a bit out of control. You're not paying attention, and you're feeling stress related to money. Money, ironically, is the number one reason now people fight in marriages. It's a number one reason for divorce. It's a stress. It keeps people up at night. We're all about balance in the 7 key areas of life. The reason we're so adamant about getting your finances under control is it's not just about the money. It's about you living a better life. It's about not staying in a job you hate. It's about not fighting with your spouse over money. It's about finally gaining control and feeling like you're empowered to have control over this hard-earned money. And you can do it. This program is amazing. It's helped thousands of people across the world, and now we really want to help you. If you struggle with money, you're stressed out about money, if you have a seemingly insurmountable amount of debt, you and your spouse can't get on the same page, this program's for you. It takes the emotion out of it, turns you into a money robot, where you dedicate an hour at the end of every month, you sit down and look at everything financially, and you follow this beautiful thing called the Green Gap that tells you how to apportion your money and pay down debt at the same time you're investing for your future, all while having some fun along the way, giving you permission to have fun along the way. It got me out of $755,000 in debt, got you out of a real rough spot in 2008, and it can help you to just think about that moment of every month seeing your debt go down and your investment. So when the debt goes down, the stress goes away. When the investments go up, you feel secure and empowered, and all while having some fun, not giving up the best years of your life with you and your family, all while having some fun along the way. So glad you're taking a look at this. Get into the program. It's helped thousands of people around the world, and it can help you too. I want you to really think about that and just imagine your life waking up, your feet hit the floor in the morning. You're not stressed about money. You're not stressed about debt. You're not stressed about where you should be investing, how you should be investing, or having fun in your own life. You're not fighting about money, because that's really what this program does. And what I want to do is I want you to hear it from others who have used the Green Gap and how they've paid down debt, how they've invested for the future, and how they've had fun along the way.
Hey, I'm Gwen from New Hampshire, and with the ULA Green Gap, we were able to pay down over $45,000 in debt in just 10 months. We finally feel like we're in a place where we are in control of our finances.
Hey, this is Zara Kaku from Calgary, Alberta, Canada. After my husband passed away in 2015, I was struggling financially. The ULA Green Gap formula transformed me into a money-making machine. And now I am investing for my future and having fun along the way. Thank you so much, ULA.
Hi, this is Debbie from Nebraska. In my entire life, I have struggled with money. And in the last 22 months, thanks to the ULA Green Gap, I have paid off $23,000 in credit card debt, $6,000 in hospital debt, and the remaining $36,000 on my mortgage. We are officially debt-free, house and all. Thank you, Green Gap and ULA, for changing my life and the life of my family.
I'm Kelly from Carlsbad, California. The ULA Green Gap helped my husband and I pay off over $300,000 in student loan debt, all while having some fun along the way. Thank you to ULA and the Green Gap.
Such amazing stories from amazing people who really have just showed you that you can do this too. It's possible to start getting that debt down, start increasing that investment, and having fun along the way and really feeling peace for your finances. Now it's your turn to get started. Let their story become your story. It's finally time to take action and take control of your finances. This program guides you step by step through 11 lessons that will finally give you control over your finances. Let's begin today.
So inspiring. I know they shared some testimonies inside of there, and I'm putting a couple up here for you to be able to take a look at. But I'm curious, because you were listening from where you currently are, right? That's why I had you think about where you are now. And I had you also thinking about where you would like to be, right? And what would make a difference for you, and what would life be like if, you were in that different place. What really stood out to you from what you just saw and heard? Love to hear just a nugget or two.
Can you ask that again? Sorry.
Yeah, what stood out to you? I mean, we just heard some things, right? Okay. About what money does to us. You've heard, some people's testimonials. What stood out most to you?
How is that possible? Like, I was listening to the one person, I'm like, how is that even possible?
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like, maybe I'm an unbeliever, but
getting curious about saying, okay, how did she do it? Right? Then you start going, how could I do it? Is this possible? Right? Is this possible for me to make this change, to do this thing? Right? That's a great question to ask. I love that. So thanks for sharing that, Barb. Mm-hmm. Somebody else, what stood out to you?
That they were still able to have fun while they paid off their debt.
Yeah.
Yes. Right. I like to think of it like that. Have you ever been on that restrictive diet where you have 0 sugar and, and so, every time you're around sugar, you're like, it's got to stay at arm's length. Otherwise, that you're going to go crazy. And then what happens when you do have, right, that when either when you finish your diet, right, or you have a cheat day or whatever it is, right. And all of a sudden you start getting that sugar in you or getting close to it. And it's just like, you just go right back to what your other habits were, maybe even, even worse than what they were before. So, I like to say that a balanced lifestyle when it comes to health has planned indulgences. Now, planned indulgences are not 30 seconds before you put that in your mouth. That is not a planned indulgence, right? But the same thing is true when it comes to our finances. And so I love that you pulled that out, Nikki, that, this is not just about I can't live life and enjoy life and I have to write off everything in my life, and get super, super strict and only, start selling everything in my house and, and growing all my own food and things like that. You can and should enjoy life. And it may not be the big bucket list European trip, right? That may have to wait until you reach your goal. But maybe it's, I'm still going to go meet my friend for coffee, or I'm still going to go take my kids to the movies, or I'm still going to go on an overnight with my significant other, or whatever that little thing is to keep you going and also celebrate the little wins along the way. Love that. Anybody else have anything that stood out to them you want to share? Getting debt paid down so quickly, right? It is not a magic pill.
Being able to save for your future or for your kids' future.
Yeah.
The fact that you can, no kidding, do all 3 of those is, I think it was, I can't remember who said it, but feeling some skepticism or how is this possible? Full disclosure here, My husband and I have been doing this since January, and it is frighteningly possible and insanely easy.
Right? And it's about making that decision that you don't want to stay where you are. I think that's the first step, is not always looking at how would I even do this, but deciding that where I am is not where I want to stay. Right? And then it's having the right system and tools that you can use that will show you the how. Right? You don't have to go into that knowing every little thing, right? But if you can take baby steps, baby steps, baby steps, right? So here are those 3 things I talked about. Reduce spending and debt, right? That's huge, right? Being able to pay off some of those things, either do the snowball or the avalanche method where you're working on paying off the debt, increasing your investment and your saving for the future. You know, I always like to say that, you know, the choices we're making now, we're going to live with the results or the consequences of them down the road, right? And so if we're not choosing to do these things now, like Anne said, our future self is going to be coming back and saying, hey, how come you didn't do this? Right? We're just living in the moment, right? Or ignoring it, pretending like it wasn't there. And then the whole idea of budgeting, fun, and adventure, right? That is so key. And so what I love about the Green Gap is that it really gives a formula, right? And it really breaks it down. So Barb, when you're like, how do you do this? So the gap is that gap between what's coming in and what's going out, right? Something you may feel like you're negative, right? You may have a red gap right now, okay? First of all, it's important to know what your gap is and if it's red or if it's green. Like that's the first step. If you don't even know what your gap is between what's coming in and what's going out, you need to know. That's your first step, right? Eventually, you want to get to the point where I have enough coming in to pay everything going out. But I don't know about you, but nobody wants to stay there, right? So we want to start going like this, where we have more coming in than we have going out. And then we want that green gap to keep growing, where there's less and less going out and more coming in, right? And then, like Nikki was saying, that's where we can be creative and generous and, you know, doing all the things with as that green gap continues to expand. And so I love that they break it down to a formula, you know, and they talk about in there, they call it, it's a 45, 45, 10. So 45% of that gap goes towards paying down debt. 45% of it goes towards investing and saving. And 10% of it goes into that fund budget, right? And as your gap increases, guess what? That 45% is growing. It's still 45%, but it's that amount that the 45% is growing. And so more is able to go into debt, more is able to go into savings, and more is able to go into that fund bucket. And so really the way that it's set up, it's so cool. It's set up with 11 self-paced modules. So you can go through this on your own, or we do have options where if you want to go through it with a coach, you can do that too. Because if you know yourself and you might start a course and then not do it, then I highly recommend you want to be inside of a community. There are videos for each lesson, and there's a workbook for each lesson. So you're actually writing, and you're having to go and look in your accounts and look on your statements and look in these different places to gather all this information. Then we also have monthly master circles where it's specifically talking just about money. So you are getting support from other people who, like they said in there, have paid over $700,000 in debt off, right? That's the kind of person you want to get financial advice from. Not your broke brother, not your mom who's still living paycheck to paycheck or just on, the checks that are coming in from the government, right? Go to the people who have actually done what you want to do, right? So Barb, if you're like, I don't even know how that's possible, then that's exactly what you do. Then you start going to the people who've done it, right? Not the people who haven't done it, right? Mm-hmm. You want to ask advice from the right people. And then inside of our inner circle community, there are others who are working on their finances too. So it's a great place to be able to share your wins and share your struggles and ask your questions and, and see where it is that you're going and be inspired that, yeah, I can keep going, right? We didn't get there in a day. So you're not going to get out of it in a day. It's going to take perseverance to keep taking baby steps and keep taking baby steps. But the more baby steps you take, it has that cumulative effect, right? And it all starts building together. So I want you right now to think about, this is a little more realistic thing, right? 1 year from now, what would be one goal that you would like to achieve in your finances in the next year? This is more of a realistic question than the first one, which was kind of more of that, that big dream question. What is it? And if you're willing to share, you can put it in the chat or you can unmute and share, or at least write it down, because writing it down is the first step to starting to get it out there so that you can take action on it. What is one goal that you think would make a difference for you in the next year?
Kelly said getting debt paid down so quickly.
Yep. And so what would be really good is pick which debt am I going to start with, right? And how much am I going to start putting towards that? And then the next month, how much am I going to put towards that, right? Yeah, I love that. So Kelly, pick which one you want to start with. That would be a great goal to work towards.
Nikki said pay off credit card debt.
Fantastic. Another good one. So if you have multiple credit cards, right, you can start, there's two methods to do it. You can do the snowball method, where you start with your smallest debt and you pay that off because it feels good to have that paid off. And then you take that amount you were paying on that and you roll it up into the next biggest one that you have, right? And it keeps snowballing bigger and bigger. Or if you have some debts that have really high percentage rates on them, then you might want to do the avalanche method, right? Where you go from the top down and you go from the biggest from the highest interest rate and you start working your way down. Either way, right? They're both working on getting after that debt. So good, love it. So it's really important that you identify a specific financial goal, right? Because just saying I want to be wealthier, or I want to have more money, or even just saying I want to pay down debt, right, is not super specific. When we talk about goals, we say they have to be specific, they have to be measurable, they have to be accountable, realistic, and time bound. So for example, you could say, I'm going to pay an extra 10% every month on the 15th towards this bill, right? That's something very specific, very measurable, accountable, realistic, and time-based. And that's going to be super important. So here's the next thing. If that's your goal in the next year, the one that you just identified, what is one action step you will take in the next 24 hours? I want you to write that down. And if you're willing to share in the chat or unmute, you're welcome to do that as well. So you've got your 1 year goal, right? What's one action step you are willing to take in the next 24 hours?
Personally, I want to write down what I spend, like get to know what it is that I spend, and create kind of a budget around that.
Exactly.
Because I know I just spend. I don't even think about it.
That's I just head in the sand.
Buy stuff.
Yeah. Yep. It's just like if you think about healthy eating, right? If you have to write down and track everything you put in your mouth, I guarantee it will make you think twice before you put something in your mouth, because you have to write it down. And I think the same thing can be true when it comes to your finances, right? So it'll make you stop and think before you buy something. Do I really need this? Is this really the best time for this? Is this really the best price? Is this really, everything that I think I'm going to get out of this? So yeah, writing it down is awesome. Anybody else have an idea, a goal that you're going to do in the next, or stuff you're going to take in the next 24 hours?
Mm-hmm. Could
looking back,
look at the.
Go ahead, Nikki.
Look at the subscription services you're signed up for.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. What's going out every month that you're not even using? They make it so convenient, and then it just gets on auto, right? And if you're using it, great. And if it's something that's adding value to your life and it's helping you to do these things that are important to you and move you forward, then keep it. But if not, you're right. Love it. So my question is, what would help you the most, right? Because we can set a goal, we can even commit to an action step, but then guess what? We have to do it, right? And then we have to do it again and again and again. Have you ever read the book, The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy? He talks about how every small step, every small choice you make has a cumulative effect, and the compound effect works both directions. And I love the fact that he uses the word compound, because it reminds me of our bank account, right? Every time you put a deposit in your bank account, what happens to the interest? It compounds, right? And it just keeps growing, keeps going, keeps growing. And the same thing is true with any goal that we set, right? Every little step that we make has a compounding effect in one direction or the other. Every day that we go without paying attention to where our money's going, that's having a compound effect as well, right? Just as it is every day that we write it down. So what would help you the most? Is it A, having a simple system, having somebody tell you what to do and when to do it? B, having a supportive community? C, having personal accountability, or D, all of the above? Right? I see a lot of heads nodding and laughs, because we all know, again, left to ourselves, yeah, where are we going to be? We could be back here in a week and been like, oh yeah, I said I was going to do that. That's right. About that goal I said, about that action step. So I want to tell you just a quick little story. So we live on what we call the Figgy Farm, and there are a lot of trees here. My husband loves the trees, and he's always wanting to buy more trees. And I seriously look at him like he's crazy, because I'm like, we have enough trees. But you know what? This is what he always justifies it. He says to me, when was the best time to plant a tree? The answer, 30 years ago, right? And then he says, and when's the next best time to plant a tree? Guess what that answer is?
Now.
Today. Exactly, right? Because if I want the shade of that tree 30 years from now, I need to plant it today, because it's going to take time for it to grow and develop into that tree. And so the same is true when it comes to our finances, right? The best time for us to figure this all out was 30 years ago, or, you know, or even more, right? But guess what? We cannot go back there. We can't change any of that. We are literally right where we are today. So the next best step is right here where you are, and saying, okay, so I'm going to start to making some changes and doing some things differently. So what's really amazing about the Green Gap program is that it gives you the system, it provides the community, and it gives a place for personal accountability, right? It's all those things and even more, because as you start growing in one area, do you ever notice how that has a ripple effect in other areas of your life as well? Right? You start getting your finances under control. What happens to your relationships? What happens to your giving? What happens to your health? What happens to fun, right? Like all these other areas that are now going to be positively impacted because you were taking an intention to focus on something that you were going to have to think about every single day that you were alive, right? So this isn't a luxury thing of just, yeah, well, I'm okay if I don't ever think about it. Like, you are thinking about it every day, and you're creating those results, like we said, whether you know it or not. So I want to encourage you to commit to yourself and commit to your future self, and saying, you know what, I'm going to take steps now to make sure that I'm going to set my future self up in a much better place than I currently am. And so we would love to introduce the Green Gap program to you if you have more questions. There are a couple of different ways that you can get started. The first one, should close this so we don't have to see that the whole time. The first one is, if you are not a member yet of ULA, then you can just start and do the course all by itself, right? So that's option number one. And it's $197 to do that. And you may be like, hey, Lissa, if I'm trying to pay down debt, why am I going to pay $197 to learn how to get out of debt? Because guess what? When you put that money out there, you are telling yourself, I am making a commitment to this, right? And you are investing. There's a difference in spending and investing, right? Spending, you put money out there and you didn't get anything in return. You just got that drink, right? Which is already down the toilet by now, right? Investing, you've got a return, right? So you are investing in your future financial wellness and in all the ripple effects that will have in every area of your life. So that's option number one. If you're not a member yet, you can do the $197 option and just do the course. Okay. Option number two, if you already are a member of ULA, you get a $50 credit. So yours is only $147. Okay. So if you're already a member and you're already using the tool, you can go right into additional courses. You can click on that, you can enroll. And like I said, it's a self-paced thing. Module 1 will open immediately, but don't open module 2 until you've completed module 1. Okay. In fact, it'll stay locked until you complete each module. Okay. And you can self-paced go through it. And then we, can use the community that we already have built in. And here's the third option. So if you're that person who's like, I'm not a member yet of ULA, and that sounds really intriguing, and I would like to save $50, there is an option where you could do both, right? You could sign up as a member, which is $77 as your one-time sign-up fee, which takes you through the Design My Life Blueprint, which helps you customize your dashboard, put all your goals in your priority list, and start taking and tracking daily action. And then there is a course that comes along with it that helps you with the mindset and the commitment and all the things that go behind it. And when you're a member, as soon as you're a member, then you can go in and you can save that extra $50. So it really only ends up being a difference of about $20 if you do the math on that. So that's what I would encourage you to do, that if you are committed to making some changes, that you find a simple system, a strong community, and a place for daily accountability that's going to help you really make some changes and really start making a difference in this area of your life. So if you have questions, we are here to answer them. And the person who invited you to be here or to listen to this would love to answer your questions. And again, the best time to start is today, right? Because the sooner we get started, the sooner we can start making changes.